Hey, you're listening to Witchy Spiritual Stuff with your host, me, Elementally. And today's topic is the 8 most magical gifts for witches for their birthdays, their holidays, just because. I know you got like a witch in your life, and I know she would be into he or she would be very into some awesome birthday gifts. Gift giving is a heartwarming but somewhat stressful tradition. On the one hand, you can't wait to see the smile on your friend or loved one's face when they finally unwrap your present. But on the other, well, you're not sure if what you picked out for them is going to be useful or interesting enough to escape the trash can or that lonely, dusty place on their shelf. It's the same scenario for anyone you're giving gifts to, even your witchy friends. I'm going to be honest, I honestly spend like a lot of time thinking about just what to give my crazy, awesome spiritual friends. I'm always asking myself, like, is this something they'll like, or do they already have this? Is this something they're actually going to use? But like over time, I've kind of figured out that the best gifts that you can give are things that your witchy friends are gonna find like really helpful in their craft and really like useful when they're doing stuff. So even if you end up picking out a duplicate, the thing about it is they're more likely to appreciate the stuff that they can use for their practice instead of things that might just serve as decor. So while there's totally nothing wrong with getting them like super cool wall art or like a witchy framed picture, you've got to admit that even if you'd find it weird to hang 2 of the same picture on the wall, so like, you know, that's a really good way to not mess up and do that kind of duplicate thing. But to make this really work, it's good to keep your witch friends' practice in mind. There are a lot of like different variations of practices, so you've got to make sure the gifts that you give them align with like what they do. So if they practice, but they're not necessarily Wiccan, you don't want to give them something tied to the Wiccan faith, for example. That's just kind of part of it and kind of how it is. But, you know, you need to consider their space too. Like, you know, do they have enough space? Are they in the broom closet? Like, what's going on with them? Can you give them something gigantic, you know, a big, beautiful crystal they don't have anywhere to put? Or are people going to comment on that crystal and say things that are going to make them feel uncomfortable about who they are spiritually? You kind of have to be careful with that. But I mean, let's put like a magical smile on every witch's face. And let me just like get into the 8 awesome gifts for witches today. So if your witch friend is like a beginner, or even if your witch friend has been spellcasting forever, giving them their very own like spell book always comes in super handy with like a super sweet book of shadows. If they don't even have spells or anything like that to jot down yet, they can use the spell book like as a journal for their thoughts and a drawing pad for their visions and recipes and different things that they're kind of coming up with. So it's okay if they don't start by immediately writing spells down or whatever. That's 100% cool. It's just so that they have something to sort of like begin with. You know, it's almost like that's the sketch pad, your very first book of shadows. So it's really cool to get that from a friend. One of my favorite gifts to give witches is the cauldron. So I know we were talking about cooking earlier. A witch can never have too many cauldrons. We always have something brewing. You can make potions and blend spices. You can even use it to whip up a mean batch of cocktails after a long and tiring ritual. You know what I'm talking about. You put the lime in the coconut and all that good stuff. Besides, cauldrons have they're just like useful even in like an actual kitchen. So this gift is a great find no matter what. It's a super cool present to get. Another gift that one of my favorites, and I have so many of these, is the mortar and pestle. If you're giving your favorite witch a cauldron, you can also give them a mortar and pestle. And basically what that is it's kind of like this long like stick thing that you use to sort of crush like herbs and spices and flowers and things like that, so that you can kind of use them to make mixes. They're used all the time in kitchens, but they're also used like in pharmacies and things like that. I mean, you can find them on Amazon. They're not hard to find. If your witchy friend's more on the earthy side, I really like the granite mortar and pestles. But if they're a little more elegant, they have a marble mortar and pestle. So it's kind of either way. You're going to kind of feel that out. I don't like the metal ones that much just because I feel like they tend to get like kind of gross with all the grinding into them you're doing. I really like for it to be like a marble or a granite type thing. Another one of my favorite witchy gifts to get is candles. So like I was talking, this is one of those things you only want to give to witches who are comfortable, kind of almost like, you know, being more open about what they do. And I mean, also if they're okay. I know there's some people that don't love smells and fire and smoke and all that. So that's okay. You don't have to give them that. But I do love candles, and they're like a super versatile present. Fragrant candles with like essential oils and herbs are really great for like, you know, when you're cleansing your home, but it's also just really cool to get like colored candles so that witches can use them in their spellcraft and things like that. Spellcraft in their witchcraft and spell books. There you go. But I mean, don't forget that they're a mainstay for like every ritual, every ceremony, everything you're ever going to do. So yeah, they're awesome. Candles, I mean, candles like the classic gift anyway. I always like hit those Bath and Body Works sales and just stock up so that I always have yummy smelling candles. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to, when I give them as a present, I open them up and I draw a protection rune in there. I literally use a barbecue skewer to do this, but I'll draw a protection rune in the top of the candle, and then I'll give that as a present, and I'm giving protection to whoever I'm giving the present to. Another thing that I love, and it's one of my favorite things to get, is tarot decks. So you're never going to run out of options with this. I literally have probably 30 or 40 tarot decks. And the thing about a tarot deck is that one of the things that people say about a tarot deck is that it's very important to be gifted your very first tarot deck. And I don't always agree with that, but it is a superstition. It is a thing that people talk about. So it's a great way to give somebody something that you could be their very first tarot deck, or you could be their 50th tarot deck. I promise you, they're going to like it just as much every time. So when you're going to go pick something that you feel like your witchy friend would feel comfortable with, take an item with you that kind of reminds you of them, something that really like makes you think of them. What's going to happen is you're going to kind of use their energy to find a tarot deck. So like take that item that makes you think of them, walk around, you know, if you're at the witchy store, if you're on Amazon, put it next to your phone as you're scrolling, but really like see what that item, like kind of you'll see like that item is really sparkly, and you'll find sparkly decks, or, you know, maybe it's made of wood and you'll find a deck that's really like, you know, nature oriented or something like that. You're going to work this out. But one of the coolest things ever is if you have a friend who's super creative, you can totally give them blank tarot cards with just like what it is, and they can design the images themselves. The other thing that I really like is a pouch or a box for someone's tarot deck. It's really important that you take the tarot decks out of their original boxes when you're using them. So if you could give somebody a really cool pouch, that just makes that gift feel really, really, really personal, because no one else is probably going to have that combination or whatever. The other thing that you can give witches is reference books. We freaking love books. Yeah, books are kind of out, but we love the way they feel. Like, we love the whole thing. Plus, new knowledge and wisdom are never unwelcome gifts to witches. So getting them a reference book that can increase the knowledge of their craft is always super appreciated. My favorite reference book to give any new witch is The Green Witch. And you can buy that pretty much anywhere fine books are sold. You can also choose books that talk about spells, books that talk about powers of plants, books that explain sigils, books that explain divination, anything. You can get them, you can even just get them a book of like witchy recipes. Like, you can just get a cookbook that, you know, of food that is made with intention and thought. They have so many different kinds of books for witches. It's such a no-brainer gift. But another really cool gift is a cloak or a hood, because who says you can't be stylish when you're reciting your incantations or mixing your potions? Every witch deserves to feel beautiful while exercising their practice. So what better way to invoke the inherent beauty? By giving them a stylish cloak or hood. Beginner witches in particular will find this gift truly empowering, because with a cloak or hood, they won't just feel elegant, but they'll also be in a great mood to discover the wonders of just witchcraft and who they are. One of the things about a cloak or a hood is it's going to help you to veil. And that's something that we'll talk about later. But veiling is something that a lot of witches have to do, especially when they're going through like a spiritual awakening or whatever. It's really hard for them to even understand their veiling at first, because everything's coming at you so quickly, and it's so involved. So giving them that opportunity to veil without them ever even knowing they're doing that is so huge. Another gift that I always give, and I give this to witchy friends and non-witchy friends, but a moon calendar, because every witch knows that it's important to keep track of the phases on the moon, phases of the moon. I literally have it on my Apple Watch, what moon phase we are in right now. So help a fellow witch out by giving them a beautifully designed moon calendar. Not only will this guide them through the seasons, but it's also something that can proudly display on the wall. And that's always cool. We talked about that earlier a little bit, but artwork is really fun. But, anything that you give them, just make it magical. You know what they say about gifts? It's the thought that counts. Of course, you do actually want to make it look like you put thought into your gifts instead of just getting the resident witch in your life, just anything. But these gifts are going to give you something that is really, really personal to them. And it's going to be something that you're going to be really surprised when you see them using it again and again. And I know that's the goal of every gift. So go give your favorite witch something awesome. Bye.